Hey, what's up, everybody? Think outside the container home build live stream. I'm gonna be doing some sort of planning and stuff here. Let me just put this on the tripod. Um, well, I guess I'll do just a quick rundown of where I'm at so far. So obviously, shipping container home behind me. Um, Crane Day just happened. Um, I understand that the official episodes, episode 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 19, are a little bit behind. So I'm still releasing the foundation episodes. So the episodes are delayed a little bit. But this is a live stream. This is December 6th. This is where I'm at right now. This is totally up to date. And yeah, I just, with the containers now on the foundation mountain, so to speak. And feel free to leave any comments or question in the chat. With the crane day now complete, I am sort of over the mountain. Going up the mountain was pretty tough. Now it's coming down. We're on the final rundown. We just got to finish the house now. It's going to be a steep downward descent. It's going to be very rocky coming down that mountain, but we have reached the peak as far as the home build is concerned. So, again, there it is. Work in progress, shipping container home on a homestead. So, I wanted to get some stuff. Hey, awesome, Katie. Thanks for chiming in. Yep. Well, I'm not done yet, but we're working on it. So little by little. But again, I wanted to have a moment of extreme planning at this point. There's so many things get very intricate now. Don't get me wrong. The foundation was an extremely intricate part of this build, but now I think there's a lot more precision in some respects. Now I'm cutting open holes on the container where windows and doors go. Those got to be really precise. I'm cutting down walls. I'm putting the studs in, installing. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. So I wanted to make sure 100%. What's up, Adrian? Thank you for chiming in up there in the chat. I wanted to make 100. Yeah, Katie. And you know what? The foundation videos, there's still like 4 left in the foundation series. So there's much more to come on that. But I wanted to really plan everything out. Like I wanted to like sit down for like the month of December and just flesh everything out. Just like go into detail on the next steps. Everything that has to come next. Because I don't want to do something out of order. Like, okay, let's start where we start here. So after Crane Day came and put the containers in their place, you might notice that there's actually still slight gaps. There's actually slight gaps in between the containers. That's not a big deal. Actually, I think it's because the walls of the containers actually have some dents on them. And so it wasn't allowing the containers to completely um, close the gap next to each other. That's not a big deal at all. That's a margin of error thing. We're going to get ourselves a come along. We'll attach the come along. It'll squeeze the containers together. And then while it's holding them together, I'll go in with the welder and weld. And again, that's sort of the plan here right now. And actually, that's why I'm here today in this live stream. That's why I'm doing this live stream, is because I am here of how I'm going to finalize, well, all these details. Things like, how am I going to seal these gaps between the containers? I'm not sure if you can tell. I mean, it should be pretty obvious that there's a gap there. And you can see light coming through. There's the light. Yeah, you see? So there's always going to be a gap here because the corner fittings, these little cubes here of the container, they stick out a little bit more than the rest. So even if these were perfectly together and like just totally touching down here, there would still be a gap here. But that's fine. The gap isn't the problem because the gap's going to be covered. And so that's actually part of one of the many reasons why I'm out here right now, kind of mulling over this and thinking about what the next step is going to be. There's so many ways that I can cover that gap. There's a million different ways. One thing I'm thinking of doing right now is I'm thinking of literally cutting out, Hey, what's up? TJWK from Ireland. Thanks for watching. I'm thinking of when I have to cut the windows out, cut the window out or cut a door out, I'm going to have a bunch of extra steel from the container itself lying around. And I was thinking, a lot of people, they get a strip of steel, they go buy a strip of steel somewhere, and they run the steel, this, little piece of steel, couple inches wide, thin, really thin, and they just slap it right here, boom, and then it just runs up the entire length, and they sort of spot weld to get it secure, and then they seal the rest of it somehow. Well, I'm thinking, well, you know what? All that extra container steel that I'm going to be chopping out, why not put that to use? So maybe I can cut strips out and use that. Why not? Why not? In fact, that's one of the criticisms people like to lob at container homes. Oh, you cut all the steel out. What a waste. Well, let's put the damn steel to use, eh? Katie Braun says, yeah. Fritz Armen, hello from Pembroke Pines. Nice. I sort of used to live kind of close to there, but everything's relative, right? But so I've been out here sort of studying how the container home ultimately fell into place. And, obviously there's the gaps, and they vary actually. The gap here, when you go over here, is actually a little wider here on this, a little bit wider. Again, not a problem. We're going to get to come along, squeeze them together, and weld them. Let me show you guys something though, real crazy. It's a really big gap over here. And again, it's like, what causes these things? Is it the containers are not perfectly square? Maybe they got banged up and twisted a little bit. Not sure if you can see, but the gap on this side, this is the worst gap. This is the worst gap over here. Down here, but as you go up, the gap starts to widen. You get the light through. The gap starts to get wider and wider and wider until it's maybe about 2 inches of a gap up there. So down here, really close together, all the way up there about 2 inches. So these are sort of little imperfections, probably in the container itself. It's hard to really tell what's causing. This is all an easy fix, believe it or not. But I just wanted to show you sort of the little nuances that I'm tackling right now. Now that I'm over the mountain and going down the mountain, the peak of the mountain being getting the containers on the foundation. So let's, what I'm going to do now is, there's so many little variables I'm trying to figure out. I'm actually going to climb on top of the containers now. I'm going to climb on top of the containers. You're coming with me, because I want to take a look at what I can see, what the gaps look like on the sides, but I want to see what the gaps look like on the roof. So I'm taking you guys with me. We're going to get up there, and this is literally just real-time research. I would have been doing this today whether I was live streaming or not. I just figured, hey, let's just go live, and if anybody wants to tune in and watch or ask any questions about my container home or container homes in general, here we are. So let me put you guys on the tripod. Gotta take the tripod up there with me, of course. Okay, sweet. Now, turn this around here. I guess I'll just climb. See, the land on this side of the container is actually a little higher up. So let me increase the size of the tripod here. We're going to climb on top of the shipping container, everybody. We're going to climb on top of the shipping container. And you're coming with me. Real-time live research, guys. I was going to be doing this work here today. So I figured, why not just go live and bring you along with me. So, pull this back a little bit. Let me set the ladder up. I don't know if this is actually, it should be big enough to reach. Otherwise, I would have done some really crazy crap to get up there. But this should reach. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Now we're gonna have to extend this, of course. Okay. I think that'll do it. I just gotta find a nice stable spot to put this sucker on. That should do it. That should cut it. You don't want to fall off a ladder during a live stream. You know, as the old saying goes, you don't want to fall off a ladder during a live stream. That's the old saying, right? Double check our chat here. There we go. I don't want to lose the chat. Okay, cool. Midwest Container Home. Hey, what's up, man? Steve Putland. Believe it or not, you're probably only 10% into the build. Wow. Well, then like I said earlier, it's going to be a really steep hill to descend down. Steve Putland says steel moves with different temperatures. Also, they would more than likely twist while being moved back and forth across the earth. I agree. The containers are not perfectly square. There's some error there, but that's okay because it's called a margin of error tolerance for a reason. Fritz Armin, your lats footing is slightly out of plumb. That is why your gap widened at the top. Your last footing, huh? Interesting theory. I'm not ready to crap all over my foundation, but you might be right. I don't know. It's possible, you know. It's margin of error, you know. Believe it or not, you're probably using yeah. Annie Vlogs, Luna Bella, or Luna Bella. Hey, hello from New Mexico. Hey. All right. How much did you pay for the containers? So all 3 containers in total, like $4,800. That's all 3 in total, not each, but all 3 in total, about $4,000. So just under $5K. So here we go. I'm gonna have to take you guys with me. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to climb while I have the tripod in my hand, which is, you know, it's just an extra layer of, you know, psychosis. That's all. Here we go. Actually, let me tighten my belt before I do this. My hands are already full enough. I don't need my pants borderline falling off. So yeah, this is what we're doing here, guys. I would have been doing this anyway, so I said, why not just turn the camera on and go live? So here we are. Important fine details I need to figure out before I move on to the next step. So we're climbing up. You know, I think we're pretty secure here, but you know what they say, don't fall off a ladder during a live stream. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that should work. All right, here we go. Yeah, I feel pretty secure there. Let's go. I feel all right. If I have to jump off, I'm throwing the tripod straight to the ground. All right, here we go. That's right. That's right. This is where we are. You know, the fun part, guys, the fun part is getting down. That's the fun part. But I had to do that like 100 times on crane day. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, since I'm close enough to the top, anybody scared of heights? Anybody scared of... I almost dropped the damn phone. Anybody scared of heights? Okay. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the tripod up here so I can finish the ascent. So I'm going to put you guys down for a second. Okay, here I go. Finish the ascent. Ah, yes. Okay. All right, I'm almost up here. Okay. Yeah. All right. You know, I'll tell you guys, if that ladder were to fall down, I'm not sure there'd be really any way for me to get down from up here. Okay. All right, we are on top of the shipping container, everybody. We've made it. Boom, there we go. Interesting thing I learned on crane day, which was like the first day I actually started jumping up here doing stuff. The roof of a shipping container, it wobbles a little bit. Like if I walk on this, it's got some bounce to it, like a trampoline, because the roof of the shipping container is a much thinner steel. It's a much thinner corrugated steel. We're on top of the shipping container home, by the way, everybody. So it's a bit wobbly and flexible. So anyways, I'll take you guys off the tripod now. Go back to hand camera. And let me show you guys what's up here. So this is what the container home looks like from the top. As you can see, you've got that gap down the middle. And from up here, you can kind of really see some of the error. I mean, you can see that this corner fitting is actually sticking out like maybe 3/4 of an inch past this corner fitting. And believe it or not, if I were to go all the way back down to the ground again, the corner fittings on the bottom, they're actually not sticking out. They're actually flush. So this is just a problem on this corner. Again, a lot of this is probably generally within tolerance. But let's go look at the other one where the really, really big gap is. And again, here I am sort of cautiously walking. This is what I came up here for. I wanted to examine these gaps. I wanted to really get a good sense of how am I going to connect these containers together? What's the procedure going to be? You know, there's so many different potential things, you know. And again, it's like, how much of sealing this is structural? Sealing this long gap here, how much of that is structural? And how much of it is just sort of like aesthetic, just to seal, to like keep water and stuff out? These are like little things I've been trying to think about. Let me hit the chat up real quick here. Set the camera up so we can see the fall. Are you on your own there or with anybody? I'm by myself here. So Katie says she can see her house with the right telescope. Well, you would be able to on over a flat terrain. Annie says interesting. Yes, hope so. Keep up, brother. You were doing a nice job. Thank you, Beto. Are you going to put trusses on top for roof pitch and services? No, I have no plans to add a pitched roof. I don't think there's a need to. I mean, you look at a lot of commercial, go to like your average shopping center. A lot of commercial structures, office buildings, they're flat on top. You don't need a pitched roof. You could if you want to, but you don't need one. And there's ways to deal with like water accumulation. There's other ways to deal with it other than a pitched roof. Plus, it doesn't snow here either. I can't remember. I don't even know if it has ever snowed out here. You can weld a sheet of metal and spray foam inside. Yeah. That's a big one. I've thought about, you know, laying a strip of steel, but it kind of triggers me a little bit because I'm like, it's already a container home. It's already a giant steel tank. Do I need to be adding more metal on top of the giant metal tank? It just seems extreme. If I could find a less structural kind of way to connect and seal them, then I would prefer that. The only real structural reinforcement that I'm 100% sure I'm going to be doing right now is on these corner fittings. Obviously, we have the corner here. We have the corners there. Basically, wherever the two containers meet. On the top and also on the bottom, wherever the two containers meet, I want to, with the come along, I'm going to squeeze them together, and then I'm going to weld right here. Zzz, zzz, right there, weld. And a nice weld right here. And then I'll do that as well on this side. I'll weld down here as well. But obviously I got to squish them together first with the come along. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be 8. So it looks okay. It's looking all right here. The gap is massive. But that's what the come along is for. And you know, I think part of what's causing the separation is that some of the container walls pop out a little bit. They got bent or dented. So it's not allowing a more complete connection. But yeah, so this one's actually a lot closer together, it seems, than the other one. This one's just, I mean, you can just obviously, it's obscene. It's an obscene gap. And I think it gets more narrow over there. So, yeah, that is very interesting to look at. Let's check out the comments here. Well, there's a bunch of different ways to like seal the roof. Beto says I can write a book on how this is done when I'm done. Maybe. Try bitumen. Don't you think it could be a point of stress failure? Not exactly sure what you mean, because I'm looking at the chat like 10 minutes delayed. Use trusses with 10 degrees of pitch. It will solve water issues. Yeah, I know. I've thought about a lot of that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. Because again, this is why I'm here. I'm in a like heavy duty research phase right now of this container home project. I'm in a heavy duty research phase because there's so many intricacies with the inside of the house and cutting out the windows and doors that I want to be 100% sure I'm not doing anything out of order. For example, it based on my opinion and many other people's opinions who've seen this, part of what is causing the excess gap between the containers is that the walls are popping out a little bit and it's not causing the containers to fully connect. So I thought to myself, let me get the containers in the background there. So I thought to myself, okay, well, when I come to weld the corners together, right here, weld them together, what do I do first? Do I just grab the come along, crank, squeeze the containers together at the corners, do the weld, and then after that go in and cut the walls out? Because I'm going to be cutting a bunch of walls out for windows and doors. I'm cutting out tons of inside wall because it's opening up for the large living room space that goes literally from, well, it's actually over here. It goes literally from one door here and literally knocking down a wall here. This wall on the red container is going to be like maybe about 50% just cut out, cutting out 50% of the wall, roughly. Same thing with this side wall of the green container. That was getting cut out. And then we come over here to the final container, and a moderate sized chunk is getting cut out here and as well back there. Because as you walk in through the front, you get a clean, straight shot to the back. Now, one of the things I'm speculating right now is, okay, well, if part of the reason that the containers are separated at the corners and they're, I need to squish them together and weld, is because the walls are slightly dented. Should I cut the walls out first? If that's what's causing these large gaps between the containers, should I just cut the walls out first? And then with the come along, crank the containers, squeeze them together, and then weld. I'm wondering, like, well, what if I weld before I cut the walls out? Then the very thing that's causing the pressure on the containers to separate is still going to be there after I detach the come along. Even though I've welded the corners, that pressure is going to be reintroduced. Now, I don't know if it's enough pressure to break the weld, to break apart the weld. But again, that's why I'm up here. That's why I'm thinking about it. So I'm trying to think about the best order to do things. Let me put this on the tripod here. Okay. Right. Point this down a little bit. Yeah. So, yeah. So it's interesting, definitely. Yeah, it's almost like a trampoline up here. Like it's solid steel, but it's corrugated and it's thin, so it does have a bit of flex to it. Something pretty heavy would have to land up here to like puncture a hole. Let me this thing. We got this giant freaking nail left over from crane day. I'm gonna toss this sucker down there. So yeah. Check the chat here. Yes, yeah, absolutely. When I cut out walls, they have to be reinforced with some steel. That's absolutely true. Yes. Phazone says there are shipping container clamps used specifically in the shipping industry. Yes, I'm aware of. I think they're called TAM locks or something. The nail lock knocked the ladder over. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Oh, actually, you know what? There would be a moderately feasible way for me to get down if the ladder fell. The blue container, the door is open, so I could probably like hang off and then like jump into the container. What about insulation? Absolutely, insulation. I'm leaning towards spray foam insulation right now, but we'll have to see about that. So yeah, there's just a lot of nuances that I want to make sure I think about in advance and then set it up in the right order of execution. I don't want to do something and then be like, crap, I'm screwed. I can't go back. I should have done it in reverse order. So it just seems like a good idea for me. Okay. So yeah, I think one of the things I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get the come along and I'm going to have to test it out, because I don't even know if the come along, your average run of the mill come along, is going to be able to move these heavy ass containers an inch over. I don't even know if they can do it. I just don't. So I should probably just buy one just to test things out and see what it all feels like. Maybe talk to a contractor. Yeah, I mean, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of videos. There's plenty of people have already like. There's a guy. He used to come along to ratchet it up into place. Hey Max, how you doing, man? It's nice meeting you the other day, bro. Max is a cool guy. He's hoping to build a container home out here in this area, actually. Um, Early next year, I think. So shout out to Max. He's cool. Um, yeah, so it's a question for sure. It's definitely a question. My neighbors, someone's building a house in that empty lot. There's an empty lot, and somebody's building a house over there. But so far, they're hiring everybody to do it. I see work crews coming in and big, nice trucks and stuff. So I think they got the money, and they're just forking out the cash. Your think cap is helping me in getting my two small 20 containers, and you're giving me guidance too. 20 foot containers. Yep, those are the 20 footers. So you're building a shipping container home as well. Cool. It's crazy. And out here, it's like the container home mecca. I was telling Max the other day, I'm like, bro, do you know of any other place where there's this many container homes in this close a proximity? And I think he said, no, I've never seen it. I don't think there's any other place. I don't think there's any other place. So it's like it's crazy. But anyways, it worked out really well for me because I didn't want to move too far from my hometown, Miami. This place is just under 2 hours from Miami, 2 hour drive. So what are the odds that the container home mecca would be less than 2 hour drive from where I was born and raised and grew up? The container home mecca. I don't know of any other place with this many. So yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of little variables. If I were to sort of make a quick jot list of the next few steps, it's fully weld the containers together in their final nice and up against each other spot. Then at that point, I'll probably weld the containers to the foundation plates. See, here's the thing. Here's an example of doing things out of order, okay? I have to weld these containers to the actual foundation itself, those columns. Because on top of the column are steel plates, and that's what the containers sit on. I have to weld the containers to those steel plates down there. What if I, not thinking, I had welded the containers to the steel plates before I squished the containers together with the come along to weld them together in the corners, at the seams on the corners right there. Because there's that little gap, a half inch. Some places it's almost like an inch. So if I had welded the containers in their final place to the steel plates on the foundation, when I get the come along to squeeze the containers together, would they budge? Would they move enough? Both up here and down there. So you see, you don't. So I basically, I think I would have, if I would have done that out of order, I would have basically, I would have been screwed. I mean, yes, there's workarounds. I could probably put a piece of metal and just bridge the gap with a piece of metal and just weld the metal on either side. Probably could do that. But I measured everything. Everything in the model and the plans is measured so that there isn't that gap there. So I don't want to have an extra 3 inches of span when I have to put the friggin', you know, when I got to put the giant wooden ceiling trusses, ceiling rafters. I don't want there to be this magical extra 3 inches that I didn't account for. So again, this is my rough idea right now of the next steps, but that's all subject to change. Get a come along, squeeze the containers together, and weld all the corners the corners together, weld them together. And now they are in their final, most square and proper location. That's permanent forever. Then maybe I can go on and just weld the containers to the foundation. I don't think that has to be done right away, though, to be honest. So that's step one. Weld them together, get the come along, weld them together. But again, now my question is, should I cut the openings out on the walls first? Because it seems like the walls, the dents, is what's the main thing keeping the containers slightly separated. Should I pop those walls out first, relieve the pressure of what's actually preventing the containers from getting together, and then squeeze them together and then weld? What if I weld first? You know, if I weld first. So again, this is all the stuff I'm here to think about. So, okay, so let's say we get that done. What comes after that? I mean, at that point, I'll be pretty confident in the final dimensions of things. I'll be pretty confident in the squareness of it. So, certainly very soon, cutting out the windows and doors and the internal walls, that's pretty soon as well. That's some soon stuff. Here's another thing I have to think about. This is another thing I came here for. This is another thing that I came here for. Yes, that's right. That's the other reason I'm here. What method am I going to use to seal the gap? It's a balance between, do I do an entirely structural sealing of the gaps, or is it just a purely keep the water and the pests out seal? And I'm talking right now all along the length of the containers, a 40-foot length between the two containers right here. Where are we at? This length here, all along. What am I going to do about that? So one thing I was thinking about was getting a long piece of, let me see, where can you guys see? Can you guys see this? Yeah, getting like a long, just about this wide, a piece of steel this wide, very thin, 1/16 of an inch, even, maybe 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little thinner, 2 inches wide, pretty thin, and just 40 feet long from one side all the way to the other. Drop it on there. Every couple feet, put a little stitch weld, weld it on there, and then come in with some kind of a sealer and seal the rest of the little space, the connection point, all the way down. I guess you could say that's kind of a structural hybrid just for sealing. But again, the idea of just getting giant strips of steel on an already giant steel tank just seems a bit over the top for me. It's already a steel tank. Haven't I? It's already structurally sound. I don't need any more. And I actually asked my engineer, the guy I'd hired like almost a year ago now, to do the structural calculations and all that. I actually asked him recently, I'm like, do you think the containers have to be welded together along the tops and at the corners? Or is it just enough to weld them to the steel plates and the foundation? He told me it's enough to weld them just to the steel plates on the foundation. You don't have to weld them together at the top where two containers meet. He told me this. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% convinced by that. By the way, if you're here from TikTok and you're watching live, feel free to subscribe while you're here, because this is where I do the more in-depth videos, more detailed. Obviously, TikTok, you're limited to 15 or so seconds. So be sure to subscribe here on the YouTube channel while you're here, because this is where you're going to get the real lengthy documentary style breakdown of the entire build. Let me check out the chat here real quick, make sure I haven't missed on any stuff here. Hey Julie Bennett, thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Max. No, I'm not really worried about forest fires. No. Oh, it's been cold lately, I'll tell you that. A 3-ton chain come along will work fine, says John Hoover. Okay. Awesome, John. I really appreciate that. A 3-ton chain. That's one thing I haven't looked into. Come alongs. How are they rated? How are they graded? How are they even marketed? Like, do they talk in terms of tons? Do they talk in terms of pounds? So I got to look into what would work. But that's definitely a great place to start. A 3-ton chain come along. So I'll definitely research that. Thank you, John. Corrado says if you pull top of the container, the bottom won't lift in larger gaps. Lift, huh? I was thinking something along those lines. I was wondering if I get the come along, for example, if I need to start, welding the corners of the containers together, like in that corner over there and that corner over there, I was wondering. I'm like, okay, well, when I get the come along and I start cranking and they start coming together, I'm like, well, what's going to happen on the other side? Is it going to cause them to split apart a little bit? I don't know these things because I've never used a come along, and I certainly never used a come along in a shipping container home. So again, these are all the details that need to be figured out. Now, I saw somebody in the chat saying that I'm overthinking it, and I think I probably do have a problem with overthinking. But you don't want to underthink either. um, oh, it was John. John says I'm overthinking. Okay, but first, Steve Putland. No, weld bottom first, ground up. What if you tack a 1/4-inch plate on the inside of each container, drill a hole through, and high tensile bolt to pull together? Weld the bottom first, ground up. I mean, that instinctively that makes sense. Um, my concern is mainly with the come along. I mean, I don't know if you're talking. I mean, if you're talking about welding the containers to the foundation, steel plates on the foundation, I don't know. I don't know about that because it seems to me that those are two different welding operations. It seems to me that those are two different welding operations. There's welding the corners on the tops and bottoms where two containers meet. There's that operation, which is for finalizing the squareness, you know, of the entire unit of 3 containers. And then there's welding them to the foundation plates down below, which is so the containers don't fly away in a hurricane. I'm just south of Lake Okeechobee here, okay? I think this is rated for like 165 miles an hour, 175. So because I kind of instinctively, as of right now, I kind of view them as two independent things, and I'm not necessarily sure it matters. Actually, I think it matters if I weld it to the steel plates first. I mean, I guess technically maybe I could anyways, I'm not going to get bogged down in that right now, but you gave me something to think about, and I probably will think about it. Okay, next. John Hoover, you are overthinking it. Weld at least 12 inches on the ends. Weld first, then cut holes. It's not going to make that much difference. Okay. You might need that heating after all. Well, there's going to be heating. Like, it was so cold here the other day in the RV camper that at 3 in the morning I woke up and I had to put the heater on. It was shockingly cold. It was like 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is, I don't know, is that like 2 degrees Celsius or something? Somewhere around there. So it was freezing. Very off topic there, TJ. You know the answer. Okay, so yeah, so that's, so anyways. Starting to get a little dark out here. It's crazy how dark it gets out here, how quickly. How are we looking? No real sunset today. Okay, so I'm gonna get back to my ponderings here. Ponderings, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, so that's the next question, right? Is what am I gonna use to seal these gaps? What system? So I've read of a couple. I always feel smart when I have a tape measure in my hand. Sometimes I like to just walk around out here when I'm looking at something or trying to research something. I just feel so cool. I feel like I'm equipped for any challenge when I have a tape measure in my hand. Um, yeah, there's many different methods. Some guy had a really like this was like totally non super glue. Great, great contribution, Julie. Thank you. Uh, okay. Uh, no, that's an idea right now. Maybe there's structural glue. You know, there's super glue and then there's structural glue. Structural glue is a whole other level of glue. I'm sure it exists somewhere. Julie's just having fun. She's just having fun. All right, this is serious. All right. Um, so yeah, there's a super non-structural way to seal these gaps from air, water, and pests. They take what's called, see if I can remember the name, backer rod, backer rod, backer rod, backer rod, closed cell backer rod. It's like this kind of spongy yet tough rod. It's cheap. And you literally stuff it into the, all along the length here. You just stuff it into that gap there, all the way. And then he takes metal roof flashing. It's like the cheapest. When I say metal, I mean like it's almost it almost looks like aluminum foil. It's so thin. Obviously not that thin. And then you just run it along the length. I don't even think you'd weld it. I don't think he said weld that. It's so thin. I don't think there'd be any welder that could pull it off. Um, and then I think he said use roofing cement to connect it and seal it. That's like the most non-structural way to do it, and it's probably the most inexpensive. So, let me give you guys an idea of how big this is. I mean, sometimes the camera doesn't do it justice. Sometimes standing here doesn't really do it justice. I think something happens when you start actually building a living space. It's almost like it starts to expand. It's weird. Like I've just looked out at the foundation months ago and I'm like, wow, that looks like a really small house. And it's not a mansion either by no means, but looks can be deceiving, so it's a little something called perspective. So yeah. Yeah. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, yep, yep. So, you know, now, to be fair, what could be more inexpensive than cutting out the walls, the windows, and then I'm left with a bunch of steel, scrap steel from the containers themselves. And then I repurpose that steel as a structural plate to run all along that length. I mean, I'm going to have a lot of steel lying around. I wouldn't have to go out and buy more steel, which just seems ridiculous to me. Why am I buying more steel to slap it on top of a steel tank? It just strikes me as excessive. So, but then that gets into the question of, well, at what point should I seal this gap? Should I do that before or after I cut the windows and doors out? Now, I'm thinking what I really need to do first, what I probably could do is these corners here, when I weld them, hopefully the come along squeezes them together so well that there's effectively no gap and I can just pass the welder through no problem, right in this gap here. So I won't need any extra steel, I'll just need the welder. I can get those 4 corners done. Well, I guess it's technically 8 corners, top and bottom on all sides. Over there too. Weld those corners as well. Right there and right there. And then once those are all welded, I feel like that would be fully connected, square, and final. The container home unit itself will no longer be moving as a whole structure. In which case, I kind of think that might actually free me up to go ahead and just start cutting out windows, doors, and walls. And I wouldn't have any concerns that by maybe popping or cutting out a wall is going to suddenly release the pressure that's keeping the containers apart. Actually, no, at that point, they would only be held together because I squished them together to weld them. So if anything, I would just be relieving pressure, not adding pressure to the 4 corner, to the, I guess, the 8 corners that I do the welding on, which would then free me up to start cutting out windows, doors, and walls. And then with all that scrap steel, I can come back afterwards and slap it on top of this 40-foot long gap between the containers. And then I have all that steel. Put it. Do my stitch weld occasionally every couple feet. Stitch weld, stitch weld, stitch weld. And then come in with some kind of a sealer. My dad recommended 5200. It's a marine grade sealer. It's called 5200. And it's like heavy duty shit. I've heard of it in other container home applications. I think I've seen another container home around here that has just massive globs of that shit in between the containers. And it's like a heavy duty sealer. But then again, I also heard that it could be problematic under UV sunlight. So, but I heard that there are variations of it that are good for those applications. So that might be a good way to seal it. So that's just throw the steel on, stitch weld, and then 5200, seal it. And seal it. And then that, that might be good. That might do it. So, that's not a bad idea. My only reservation about, dropping 40-foot long strips of thin steel all along this length is just the cost. Am I really going to spend extra money on 150 feet of steel for an already giant steel tank that doesn't need any more steel tankness to it? It just seems like it's just over the top to me. My only reservation is spending the cash on it. But again, if I have all these windows and doors cut out and I have all this excess steel lying around, which I can repurpose, then I'm not necessarily opposed to that. So that could be the path I'm taking. So let's just assume that is the path I'm taking. Weld the corners. Final. Cut out, at least cut out some windows, doors, and walls. Now, when you cut open a window or a door, now the container home is no longer sealed. Now it's subject to pests, water. I mean, I'm sure I can just put some tarp over and, cover it up. It won't be a big deal. But these things, they kind of have, and any house under construction is going to be sitting out there for a certain period of time with all types of stuff crawling in, raining on it. So it's not inherently a big deal that if there's some exposure. Okay, it's getting dark. I want to get off this roof before it gets nighttime, and then I'm going to go into the RV. You're going to come with me, and I'm going to do some plotting on the computer and maybe with the 3D model. So let me attempt to get down while I can at least still see the ladder because it's starting to get dark out here. Okay, so let me check the chat real quick. Let me check the chat one last time before I attempt to climb down this container. Sticky tape, yes. 10-degree flat roof trusses. It will be so much cheaper. You won't need to seal the gaps in the roof at all. The gaps on the ends you can use backing. Okay, interesting. I'll keep that in mind, man. Do the cutting first. It will mess with the structure. Do the waterproofing after. Interesting. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that when I start cutting out windows, doors, and walls, the container home itself, because I heard that happens. When you start cutting the walls out, the whole unit of the container, can buckle a little bit. That's why you reinforce openings with steel. Again, I have to think about these things, and that's what I'm doing. But great point there. What do we do if you fall? Is there a number to call? If I fall, I'm a moron. But no, I'll be fine. All right, here I go. Is there a number to call? Yeah, how would you? How would you? I guess I can shout the number. I can shout the address. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and attempt the climb down the mountain. After Crane Day, I was officially at the peak of the mountain in this giant container home build. I was finally got to the peak of the mountain. That was Crane Day. But now I still have to climb down the mountain, and it's a very steep and treacherous descent, like the one I'm about to take. Okay, so just for fun's sake, do something here. Just for fun's sake, this is the descent, and it's always fun when you have to climb down off of something. You kind of have to like blindly. You kind of have to like blindly find out where the ladder's located. So that's my descent. I'll be fine. Because I had to climb up and down this container on Crane Day. I had like a crazy person. So I actually got used to it. Okay, I'm going to put the tripod close to the edge so I can grab it once I'm on the ladder. It's getting dark out here, everybody. Okay. Jesus Christ. Turn around there. My goodness. Okay, let me fix this here. Shouldn't be so close to the damn edge. Okay, there we go. All right. Are these those mosquitoes coming out? Is that what this is? Okay, here we go. It's a real pain coming down. I'll tell you that much. These fucking mosquitoes, man. Jesus. Okay, I'm on the first rung. And the mosquitoes are out. And they're crazy. Okay, I'm going to grab this a little bit. And I'm on the second rung now. This is probably more risky than Crane Day entirely. Next. Man, These fucking the mosquitoes are out, bro. They weren't really this big of a deal in summer, but they seem to have come out. All right. Okay, we survived. Now, I'm just gonna put this here for a second. I got to put the ladder away. So I'm gonna leave you guys here for just a moment, and then we're gonna go inside the RV camper, where I'm gonna do some additional research. You guys will be there with me, so I'm gonna put the ladder away real quick. I'll be right back. Man, the mosquitoes are out, bro. I'll be right back. Now, we try to get into the RV camper without the mosquitoes coming in with me. And this is think outside. This is think outside the container, everybody. This is what happens. This is what happens when the cameras aren't rolling. All right. You know, and I figured, you know, if I'm gonna spend next few hours doing this critical research on the container home, why not just go live? So. I'm gonna get you guys in place here. This is the setup here. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. So, you know, I have research that I have to do, so I figured, why not go live? And like I said, December is a big month. December was a month where I figured, you know, I just finished Crane Day near the end of November, or was it mid-November? And I'm like, you know, now that I'm at this stage, I need to really plan out what's going to come next, so I don't do anything out of order. And so that's literally what I'm doing right now. I'm doing extreme research and planning. And I want to get up on that container and really just look at what I'm dealing with. So I figured, hey, and here we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the chat here. Now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do even more. I'm going to probably surf the internet a little bit, try to find information, find out what really should come next. Cut a window and put it on. So little by little, each hole you open replace it with the window or door, but little by little. Let me read that one more time, Samantha. And by the way, I think this is the Samantha that actually lives out here with her husband, I think, and is also building a shipping container home. So that's cool. Cut a window and put it on. And so little by little. Right. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah, it is getting dark, Max. Yeah, I was thinking that. That's a good point, and I was thinking about that. Bye, Julie Bennett. Take care. Bigfoot territory. Let's not go there. So that's a possibility. That's a possibility. You know, just cut out the openings that I need. That's a possibility. All right, so I'm going to go into the next phase of this here. Do not leave that roof flat, man. You're really insisting, bro. Let me get this set up here. Really insisting on that one. Well, like I said, I still have to research it. I have to find out how much that flat roof or rubber sealant stuff costs. If it's like, I think you're the one who said it's like an exorbitant price, then maybe I'll have to think of another way. It's got to be worth it. Shipping container home. I think that'll be all right there. Yeah, that'll be fine too. Okay, here we go. We in shot? We're in shot. Great. Actually, you know what? Get a little closer there. That way I can still reach and see what's happening in the chat. So this is literally live container home research and planning live, because why not? I'm just gonna bring this down here a little bit. Okay, because why the hell not? All right, we should be better now. Yes, we're much better. There you go. Steve Putlin says he's a carpenter. He says he's seen flat roofs leak like crazy. All right, well, I'll take that into consideration. Getting a lot of flat roof haters out there. Flat roof skeptics. So I'll take that into consideration. I'll look into it. I will say one thing. There's another shipping container home out here. It's actually just like mine. It's 3 40-footers into a big rectangle right next to each other. And we passed by, and there was a guy working on the container home, and he's like, hey, well, I parked outside on the street and waved at him and said, hey, what's up? He's like, hey. I'm like, hey. He invited me in to take a look at the shipping container home. We walked inside, and there actually was a little stain on the ceiling because there was a leak, and it was a flat roof. As of today, they actually added a pitched roof. So, again, I have to research it, man. Damn. You guys are ruining my day. I don't want to have to think about building a pitched roof. You know, and that to me, and I will say, you're not literally ruining my day. I'm just joking, but you know, for me, adding a pitched roof to a container home is like such an extreme extra level that it starts to get to the point for me where container homes start to lose their sort of inherent utility when it comes to converting them into a house, because it's like, you know, I just feel like you're adding such a traditional home element, that pitched roof. It's like, it's kind of cool that the container already comes with a roof. And so if I can keep it flat, I would really like to keep it flat. Muhammad Ahmed, yes, I heard of Life Uncontained. They're awesome, and I am aware of their build. I don't know, guys. I'll see. I don't know. It just, I mean, I've done some research into like these white thick sealants, like a material that you lay over, and it's like a sealant. And people say it's really durable, really rugged. It works. I mean, are they just bullshitting? Are they exaggerating? Um, like I said, I'll have to research it, but everybody seems adamant to build a roof. Adrian says, I agree with Steve. Designing mine with a nice overhang in New York. I need space for extra insulation. Flat might be a good idea in Florida. Well, why do you think it's just a better idea in Florida, and it's a bad idea to have a flat in New York? Is there a particular reason you're using a sloped roof in New York? What is it? Snow? Is it because snow will freaking pile up? What's the reason for you in New York? I'm just curious. I want to say thanks to everybody who's tuned in and watched so far. I'm pretty sure there's a few people from TikTok who've also tuned in. I put a little shout out on TikTok that I was going live. So if you hear from TikTok, feel free to hit the subscribe button, because this is where I do the more in-depth, documentary style, detailed breakdown of how I'm building a shipping container home. What's up, Fire? I've been doing good. How are you? Nice one, Steve. Huh. I'm losing room, high space, due to extra insulation. Planning to add the insulation on top. Huh. Well, that makes sense. Yes, it is a flat surface, and it's quite nice. Use mastic strips and silicone to make the joints watertight. Make the steel about 1 inch high so the water can roll away from the joint. Right, because that's another thing. That's another thing. You know, the that on the roof of the containers where what am I doing? We have a 3D model here. What am I doing? Now yeah, there we go. There you go. It's actually coming out all right. I think if I stay out of frame, it won't get bright. That should be all right. Okay. By the way, I can't recommend 3D modeling enough. Very, very helpful. I guess I don't have any links in the description of this video, but if you go back to any other video on my channel, there are links. You can download the 3D model. Yes, it's for sale. You could download the 3D model that I made for the shipping container home. It's pretty damn detailed, I would say. As well as you could actually also download the structural plans, which actually I can't show you those because those are not the actual final ones that have some personal information blanked out. But the actual drawings and plans themselves are also available to download along with the 3D model. Just go back to any one of my prior videos and you can actually see the links to download those. I don't have them in the link of this live stream, but let me make the roof transparent here. Actually, there's a smarter way to do that. Well, first let me make the point here. So again, I was just on the roof earlier, and you look at the 3D model, and the model is always better than reality, right? And in the 3D model, there's almost no gap between the two containers. They're really, really, really just right on each other. But when you look at when you look at my actual container home, there is even a moderate gap in between the two corner fittings. So it just goes to show sometimes reality isn't 100% like a model. The model isn't always perfect, or rather the model is perfect, but the actual execution sometimes falls short of that. But it is pretty stunning. Like, this looks so identical to the real thing. I mean, it just came out just perfect. The way the containers sit on the foundation plates, and it's just really fantastic. So that's the thing, right? Up here on top of the roof, where these containers meet, you have this gap here. It's coming out really nice here, isn't it? Yeah. There's the gap. There's that gap. And, it's pretty big, but the problem is that it really is like a joint where you would think water can accumulate there. And so I imagine that is kind of in the ballpark of what Fritz just said. Use mastic strips and silicone to make the joints watertight. Make the seal about 1 inch high so the water can roll away from the joint. I'm going to write that down actually. In the connecting containers category. Connecting containers together. This is a little document I made with good resources and stuff. A non-structural for just sealing. I would put that in the non-structural. It's just a sealant. And let's take a look at your comment again. Mastic strips and silicone to make joints watertight. Make seal about 1 inch high. Yeah. So water, rolls away. Yeah. I don't even know what a mastic strip is. That's fine. I'll look it up. But I think I get the general idea. I get the kind of rough concept of what you're talking about. Because that is the thing, For example, I mean, on the sides, let me go to the other side. On the actual walls of the container, there is no concern about water accumulating here on the side the way it could down the roof, because it's the flat surface of the roof, obviously. Things are going to puddle up there. It's not going to puddle on the freaking side. So it's true that there is a unique consideration that has to be made with the roof, the bridging and sealing of the gap on the roof versus on the side. That's 100% true. A different system probably has to be used because that is a little pit. Even though it's technically a bunch of flat stuff, including these top rails here, they're flat. It's not like they're freaking like this, and it's not that bad, but it's flat, and I'm sure it's not perfectly flat. So there's probably it's definitely a danger zone for water accumulation, no doubt about it. It's definitely it's a concern. So, that's true, Fire. We have a debate. We have a construction debate going on between Fritz and Steve. And I'm really gonna I'm siding with Fritz because I want that flat roof. I want that flat roof. I don't want to have to add an extra roof on top of my already roofed containers. But no offense to Steve, I'm gonna look into both sides. But so Fritz, anyway, so it's interesting. So yeah, whereas on the side of the shipping container home, um, yeah, we know, bro, we know. Whereas on the side, I can probably just here's a question for Fritz. I have a question for Fritz. I have a question for Fritz. I'm pretty good leaning right now. Any word says some type of problem with a crack. Well, sort of. Yeah, there's a crack between the containers, and we're trying to figure something out here. Um, I'm definitely leaning towards the idea of getting a like a 2 inch wide piece of strip steel, very thin, 16th of an inch thick, 2 inches wide, and just slapping that sucker all along the length on the side. A few stitch welds, stitch weld, stitch weld, stitch weld, stitch weld, and I'm right now at the moment with very initial research being done. I'm thinking of putting 5200 or some kind of similar heavy duty sealer to seal the gaps in between the welds. Now, that could probably work just fine for the sides. The question I have for Fritz is, do you think that method could work on the roof as well? Get a piece of 40-foot length for the entire length from here to all the way over there of like a 2 inch wide piece of steel covering the entire length, about a 16th of an inch thick, not very thick, probably 16th. I haven't figured out the thickness yet. Stitch weld, stitch weld, stitch weld, and then with some kind of heavy duty sealer, seal in the sides on either side the rest of the way where there isn't a weld. Obviously, I'll probably plaster it over the weld too. I'm not going to weld the entire 40-foot length. I'm going to have to buy 40 rolls of wire. So, just any idea, any thoughts on that, Fritz? What's a stitch weld? I don't know if that's the exact word, exact phrase for it. It's when instead of welding the entire length, 40 feet, every foot or every 2 feet, you just put like a little inch or 2 inch thick long weld. So like a little inch or two here, skip a couple feet, little inch or two weld there, skip a couple feet, an extra inch or two weld there. You don't, generally speaking, that's going to be pretty durable. It's going to be pretty strong. My way will work. Yeah, it'll be like a V upside down. Yeah. Yeah. Well, certainly your way is a non-structural way. It adds no structural to it. And that's one thing I'm trying to figure out right now is should I try to add some structural durability while I'm already up there sealing that gap? So yeah, something to think about. Definitely something to think about. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be thinking. Lots of freaking thinking. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, I'm really open to the idea. When I gotta cut out the big front door here, I'm gonna have a lot of extra steel from the container, a lot of spare steel when I cut this opening. So I like the idea of taking that steel and using that as a panel to cover up the sides. And hell, whatever method I end up using for the top, I don't know what a mastic strip is. Let's find out what a mastic strip is. Oh, damn it. Yeah, I would have to put the internet on my. I get my internet from my phone via hotspot. So if I turn that on, it might screw up the connection of the live stream. So I'm not gonna risk it, but I'll look at it later. All right, so as you can see here, my sort of rough rough planning of what comes next. Step one is weld corner fittings together. I think that's just, right now, that's just the next step. And I'm excited because I really enjoyed when I had to do some other welding like a month ago. It was so fun. It was like some small like side thing. It was like 3 weeks of nonstop researching. Ugh. Welding is a science. It's really is a science. It's a chemistry. Welding is chemistry. Welding is chemistry. Welding is chemistry. And chemistry is a science, or something like science. And by the way, if a giant spider appears somewhere and I crap my pants, don't judge me. Don't judge me. No, I've only had one real crazy spider encounter inside the RV. They're out there, and I see them pretty often. They're out there, and they're like the size of my palm. We're talking palm-sized spiders out here. Palm-sized. Have you ever seen the huntsman spiders from Australia? The huntsman spiders from Australia? These are not huntsmen, I don't think, but they're fast like huntsmen, and they kind of look and act like them a little bit. They're not as big as a huntsman, but they're lightning fast like them. I've only one time in the 6 months that I've been here has one of them gotten in. It was at night, of course, had to be at night, and I see a lightning fast blur. I had the lights off in here. I just had the TV on, the monitor on. So it was dark enough for me to not know what it was, but it was lit enough. Well, that doesn't even make sense. It was just dark. And oh yeah, that's right. It was light enough in here that I could see a blur just dart on the wall coming towards me on the wall, like over here. Because this is like the little living room section that mechanically comes in and out on an RV camper. So there's like little gaps. I know there's gaps there, and I know things get in through there. And it was so fast, I thought it was like a flying roach. Like, you know, when a bug flies, it can zip pretty quick. And I thought it was a flying roach. It was so fast, and it was big too. It was like a big just blur out of the side of my eye. But when I finally turned my head to see what it was, it had stopped somewhere inside the blinds, the window blinds, like these here, but not this window, another one. And it had actually hidden itself behind the blind, so I couldn't see it. So I didn't know what it was, because it had disappeared into the blinds. So I didn't know what it was. I just saw a black blur. So I'm like, okay, something's infiltrated the RV. So I grab my sandal, ready to strike. I don't know what it is. And then a moment later, it shoots out of the blinds and keeps crawling down the wall. It gets stuck in the corner. It knows I'm there. And it's like fidgeting because it's like scared and it's cornered. And it has like 4 feet to get back into this crevice of safety from where it came from. And I'm there with the sandal. And I get close and I get close. And I'm like, holy shit, it's finally one of these demons. I've been having nightmares about you for 6 months. You finally got in, you bastard. And I move in for the kill. And I swipe. And it's just too fast. It's too fast for me. And it darts back into safety, into this little crevice where I can't really see and I don't know if it's there. Needless to say, I had a little trouble sleeping that night. But you know what, though? I think it was. I never saw it, by the way. It's been like a month. I never saw it again. I don't know if it left. I don't know if it made a nest in here. I just never saw it again, so I'm okay now. But I'll just say that. Yeah, I think it helped me get over the fear a little bit. Exposure therapy, as they say. Um, I don't think it's gonna bother me that much next time. I don't think it's gonna bother me that much. I just don't. I just, it's a bug. They're weird. They're creepy. They have 40 eyes and 40 legs. They're bizarre. They're annoying. But is it something to fucking lose sleep over? I don't think so. So I think I'll be fine. Next time one gets in here, and if I can't kill it, I don't think I'm going to have the sleepless night that I had last time. Oh, goodness. So, yes. Man, the debate continues. A wolf spider? I don't know what the hell it is, man. Fritz says the metal plate will work. You will need to paint it with anti-rust silicone both sides after painting. Interesting. Well, good for you, Fire. I'm glad you disposed of the cretin. Insects have really they've always been annoying, but they've reached a new level of just like I'm just so convinced of how annoying they are. And I'm like to the point now where I'm like, insects were created to train humans' hand-eye coordination. When you go in for the swat or for the kill, it's just like they're just so annoying. It's why they're called bugs, because they bug you. But anyways, so like I said, if a spider appears somewhere and I freak out, don't judge me. Anyway, so weld the corner fittings together. I think that's probably a good place to start. Grab the come along, squeeze them together, and weld the suckers in their final squarest and truest location, the shipping containers. And for anybody who's just joining, when I talk about welding the containers together, first step, I'm talking about welding these two square blocks here. They're called corner fittings. These are where two containers meet. They have them on the bottom, and they have them on the top as well. Welding on this side, welding them together, and on the top right here, welding them together right there. And I would use a come along. In fact, I have an image here. This is from a website. Some guy, he hired a welder, and the welder used a come along. And what he did was he simply used the come along to bring the two containers together, which results in this over here. He's got them. The welder was able to squish the two containers together, and then he can go in there and do his weld. So that's probably what I'm going to do. And then you've got I would do that here. And then I would do it down here. And then I would do it on this one as well. And I would do it up here. And I would do it on the other side as well. So it'd be like eight spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'd be 8 spots. Probably wouldn't take long. Attaching the come along might take longer than doing the actual weld. So that's something that I think that's right now that's the first step. And I guess as I was sort of speculating earlier when I was on top of the roof of the shipping container, um, I was considering the possibility that maybe the next step would be, um, damn, what was it? Yeah, yeah, that would be the case. Yeah, that's the thing. I have to really make a final decision on how I'm gonna seal the gaps. That's just I have to make a final conclusion. And what's funny is that now that we have a flat versus slanted roof debate raging in the chat, you know, I may not have if I do a pitched roof, if I do a freaking pitched roof that I build and construct on top of the container home, maybe I wouldn't have to. That would absolutely probably change um the kind of seal that I would do up here. If there's an entire, so it's just this is why I'm doing this. This is why I am here live right now with you people researching and brainstorming because this had to be done. I had to sit down and think about all these things in advance. So I'm really opposed to building a roof on top. I'm just gonna say that right now. I there's no plans. There's nothing in the plans. I don't know if I'd have to go back to the county and they'd have to like reapprove because this was not in the plan, so it'd be a major headache. So yeah, it might have to be. We might have to go with Mr. Fritz. Mr. Fritz. Steve Putland's like, you won't have to seal it at all. Oh, Steve. Anyways, so we respect your opinion, and it's definitely something I'm going to think about. Um, yeah. So, in many ways, I don't think I can really. I don't think I can move forward to know what the next step is until I really finalize the method, the exact method I'm going to use to seal everything, including the roof. So that's probably just the next phase of research I got to do. I just got to sit down and go to task. Sit down and go to task researching, 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 researching. I don't want leaks. I'll tell you that. I don't want leaks. A leak would be a real pain in the ass, man. Shit. That would be a hassle. I mean, the amount of work you'd have to do to fix a stain on your freaking drywalled ceiling. I don't even know how you fix that. I mean, you gotta cut out a square. Yeah, any word. I'm familiar. There are like rubber coatings. I'm familiar with those. Yeah, absolutely. That's sort of the direction I was going in. I've seen those before. And the companies will swear by, they're durable and they last, forever. And yeah, that is, so I'm in mega researching phase right now. I'm in mega, mega researching phase. Um, so yeah, yeah. So that's gonna have to happen basically. I'm gonna have to just buckle down and research the hell out of what my final system because I just can't move forward really. Um, I mean I guess I don't have to seal the roof immediately. I guess I could probably skip that step and come back to it later. Once I weld the corner fittings together, the containers shouldn't really move after that. you know. So maybe I can make myself feel a little more productive, move on to some other steps, get those done, and maybe come back to the roof later. Yeah, I don't want to go crazy spending money. I want to make the house as cost effective as possible. As cost effective as possible. Why not? Plus, it just seems redundant to me. Um, it already has a roof. I get it. It's not a pitched roof, but there's so many. I mean, unless all these commercial and office buildings have flat rooftops, and it's just a horrible idea that leads to leaks and makes roof workers rich forever. I don't know why so many buildings would even have flat rooftops. They have flat rooftops because apparently there are systems for properly sealing them. So, but um, Steve, Steve disagrees. Redoing the interior for two. I mean, all right, so yeah, that would be cool. I would love to. Yeah. Hmm. The thing is, it would have to be a pretty big hump. Mr. Fritz, his idea, for example, like even if I put like a 2-inch hump here, almost like a roof cap or a roof ridge, so that when water lands here, it falls down the sides. The problem is like there's parts on the corrugated roof of my container. I was just walking on the roof earlier. There's parts of the corrugated roof that actually like pop up a little bit because there's just a little bit of warping. Maybe I can pop it back down and flatten it out, but I feel like there's no way that the corrugated roof section is going to be flat enough that the water's just going to, you know, it's just going to hit the middle of the peak, fall down the side, and then like magically work its way like down over here. I mean, I guess if it landed here, it could work its way off the side. But if water lands in the dead center, I just don't think the water is going to be able to make it off the side of the roof. Now, I'm not even sure that's what you were suggesting, Fritz. My thinking is that water evaporates. It's hot here where I live most of the year, hot enough that I don't think there's going to be a mountain. There's not a mountain. There's going to be an ocean of water pooling on top of my container home. I don't think that would happen. I don't think that would happen. I think it would just evaporate. It would go away. I mean, unless there's enough, you know, enough creases that it can puddle like crazy, and God forbid it puddles so much we have a collapse. We don't want that to happen. But then again, you go back to like commercial buildings, office buildings that have flat roofs. That would have to be a really well. Actually, I think I heard, and I'm not sure if this is true. I could be wrong, but I think I heard that even flat rooftops are built with a very imperceptible slope for the purpose of draining. Could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I read that. Shipping containers are not meant. They're not built for that. They're not. They're made to be square, as far as I know. They're not. They're not meant like slightly sloped so the water drains. But then you have to ask yourself, well, when this is a funny conversation actually. Then you have to ask yourself, well, wait a minute. They might not be meant to drain shipping containers the way they're manufactured, but when they're on top of giant ships where they're used, stacked 20 high or whatever, and they're going through friggin' the oceans and it's being rained on, I mean, you would think that the water could pool on top of those containers and there would be a collapse. To be fair, when they're on a giant ship, they are individual shipping containers. So the water lands on one, the water lands on a single container, and it probably runs off the side. Maybe some stays in the middle, but it's not enough to accumulate to cause any structural problems for the roof. But when you put two together, now you've kind of almost created a canyon here. You've now the water that lands here, unless it goes this way 8 feet and falls off the side, it's got to go 16 feet, the width of two containers, to get off the side. And that might be too far for water to go. Anyways, a lot of this is just pure speculation. But it's definitely interesting and definitely probably important discussion to be had. Most commercial buildings have a concrete roof with falls and drains everywhere. They're also waterproofed. Yeah. Containers are made for the water to run off, says Fritz. Well, yes, when it's just a single container. When you got two together, which is not what they're made for. They're not made to be freaking sealed together. I'm concerned that this point here is creating some kind of a canyon that it could be a problem. Because I understand your idea about having a little 2-inch tall little ridge. So the water sort of like a, but then where does it go? I don't know. I'm just kind of concerned that it could pool here. It could pool, it could, it'll fall down the side and then pool all along this here, and it won't be able to make it off. I mean, for example, like if the water falls, it's hard to tell, honestly. It's what I need to do is I'll turn the internet on later once the stream is over, and I'll do some research specifically on containers and what people do when the bridge is gapped. The gap is bridged. So, yes. Yes. One day this will be a house. One day this will be a house. One day the model will become reality, everybody. One day, someday. I got to change the field of view in the model. It actually makes the house look really, really small inside, depending on the field of view that you use in the thing. Fritz says, watch the video link I sent to you. Okay. Cool. I'll check it out. Kenneth Arthur says, if you put solar panels to cover at a slight pitch, most water would run off and protect roof from thermal heating. That's interesting. I thought about solar early on. And I just feel like they're just overpriced right now. Elon Musk did come out and he has his Tesla or whatever, his solar panels, and I heard he dramatically cut the cost of solar compared to what the industry standard was at the time. So the cost per watt was dramatically reduced. But Yeah, I feel like solar shouldn't be. I mean, I don't know what it takes to make a solar panel, but man, they're pricey. I just wonder if they really have to be that expensive, or somewhere between, you know, government subsidies and incentives. I just wonder if somewhere along the way the solar panel industry is just, there's the prices are just a little bit, they're just artificially high. I don't know. It's the underside of the container home. Pretty cool. It's a bunch of steel beams. And look, you think about what the underside of a container looks like. It looks like what are they called? Joists, floor joists. That's what it looks like. But instead of made out of wood, they're made out of freaking steel beams, basically I beams. Pretty cool. Anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna have to go to the drawing board and look into do a lot of research on the I'm probably gonna have to basically fully figure out the exact system I'm gonna use for the roof, whether be it a pitched roof or I end up going with some elaborate ceiling system. Um, I'm probably gonna have to be final on that, be 100% decided and final on that before I can really start moving forward very much, because I feel like, you know, anyways, there's a lot that needs to be figured out. But anyways, I think that's it for today's stream. I'm going for almost 2 hours. Thank you everybody tuning in. If you're here from TikTok, because I put a little shout out video on TikTok, be sure to subscribe while you're here. This is here on my YouTube channel is where I post the very in-depth, detailed, documentary style videos on the building of this shipping container home. So if you haven't subscribed here on YouTube already, be sure to do that. Um, and that's it. So I want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in, everybody who's commented in the chat. I mean, you guys are great. A lot of ideas, a little bit of debating, actually, a little bit of a back and forth debate, a flat versus sloped debate. Flat versus sloped debate. Um, and it's a lot to consider. But anyway, so I'll probably do more of these streams. I have, yeah. So yeah, new episodes of Think Outside the Container. The official episodes are coming out. Obviously, I have to edit them. It takes time. So the next episode is in the foundation series. The building of the foundation is the sonotubes. That was a circus on its own. It took a lot of work. The sonotubes was a lot of work. So I will be posting that new episode soon. I actually have another sort of a small episode that's actually probably release it tomorrow. It's not the official build. It's sort of a side topic because I had a video kind of went viral on TikTok like 5 days ago or something. It's got like over 400,000 views, and it was about the container home. And there were a few haters. There were a few container home haters on the TikTok comment section, and one guy said that my shipping container home looks like a huge dumpster. And so I did a video. It's already ready. I just have to make it public. rebutting some of the container home hate, because there's some container home haters out there. Some people get really triggered by container homes. I don't understand why. It's like, just relax. But so I'm going to be I'm going to be making that video. I'm going to be making that video. Or I'm going to make it public probably tomorrow. So again, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll be doing more of these streams, and appreciate all your contributions. Steve, Fritz, Fire, everybody else, Kenneth. Thank you guys. And Max too, if Max is still there. All right. Bye everybody. See you soon.